Good morning.
Good morning.
It's been a morning.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a morning.
yeah. As Jenny knows, I woke up and went, shit. I went back to sleep, and here I am. We're
That's all right.
we're about an hour behind, but
In reality, though, this is like our normal morning recording time.
it is. It is. But we also are usually in Zoom together for like a good half hour before,
True, true.
and I'm recording on a different device today in hopes that you can see both of us on screen at the same time versus going back and forth. So I'm really wondering how that's gonna go.
I'm kind of hoping it works out because, yeah, it is kind of hard to follow when it's jumping back and forth.
Yeah. So that was my hope. I think the last time we recorded, I did a lot of dicking around in the app settings on the computer that I
And
can't
I
get.
found filters.
Yeah. And I don't have filters on this either.
Oh,
Because trust me, I could have saved myself an extra time of putting makeup on today. So there's that. Um, yeah. So how are you?
oh, peachy. Last night, little man and I had a date night. We went for
Oh,
tacos.
oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, he rated the food a 10, but the seats, not so much. He said they needed work.
Mm. Hey, your seating experience when you're eating is important.
Yes. And we went to Taco John's, which they actually have it in their business model that the dining room needs to be at a lower temperature than the rest of the restaurant to promote that people, move through quickly instead of lingering.
I'd bundle up.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very cold in
Is
there
it
last night.
is it a buffet thing?
No,
Oh,
no, it's a regular restaurant.
that would make sense if it was a buffet,
Yeah, no.
but whatever. I
I complained about it when I worked there. So 'cause I did work there for a while. That's where I decided to try and dice my finger into little cubes. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
special
Didn't
tacos.
didn't work, but I did end up with a nice scar on my finger
Oh,
from it. Um, but yeah, it's not a comfortable dining experience. It's one of those where you definitely want to eat or take it and eat it in your car because your car's gonna be warmer.
yeah. See, and I won't eat in my car.
I used to eat in the car all the time last year, but this year not so much. Like I've gotten away from that. Now I just eat at my desk.
Yeah, I there's been a few times my daughter's been very upset with me that she's like, but I'm hungry now. Yeah, well, there's no eating in my car. I'm sorry. I don't eat in my car. And my grandkids don't like the fact they can't eat in the car, but they get over it.
Yeah. See, I also have a garbage in my car because I know that, between my son and I, we create a lot of garbage in there because, I'm in there all the time, it seems like. And, he's in there for a fair bit of time too. And then anytime he gets anything at the store, he feels he has to open it immediately in the car, no matter how many times I tell him not to. So yeah, it's an ongoing battle. But then afterwards, we went to the Wally Mart and we got our matching Christmas jammies with slippers.
Aw,
So he was very excited about that, although he's not a fan of the slippers. So we got the tan ones that say Mama Bear, Little Bear, Daddy Bear, or Papa Bear. Unfortunately, though, him being the size that he is, he had to get the Papa Bear ones because they only went up to a size 12 and he's like a size 16. So,
gotcha,
yep.
gotcha.
So, yeah, and it came with the red flannel pants.
I've got, and it was funny because the other day we were talking and she like flashed out of her pants. She's like, I'm wearing these. I was wearing the exact same ones. The only difference was hers were brand new. I've had mine for a while, but
Yeah.
I love mine. They're so comfortable, and I mean they're no thicker than any of my other leggings, but they just seem warmer. I think because of the pattern.
Yeah, see, and like my other ones are regular leggings. These are more like the cotton type pants.
Okay,
So these are actually a little more comfortable than the leggings, surprisingly.
okay.
I'm good with it. I don't think I can match it with my shirts. But yeah, I'll give it a try at some point.
All right.
New red outfit.
Uh, Anything exciting coming up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. On the 15th, my son has his Christmas concert where he gets to come up and announce one of the songs.
Aw.
So I'm very excited about that for him. So
And you have that night off?
no, but it's early enough in the evening to where I can go and all of that some fun stuff. So it's at like 2:30. It's technically not evening, but
Okay.
you know. So yeah, I'll get to go to that and then I'll take him home from school that day and then off to work I'll go.
All right. Well, at least you get to be there and not have to worry about, like, I'm old as shit, but when I was in school, we had one in the daytime and one in the evening.
Hmm.
And then that way it was like good for parents that work during the day or vice versa. And yeah, they don't do that now.
No, for the most part, it's just evenings, but like the elementary school, they do daytime concerts. And then once they get into middle school, they transition to the nighttime concerts. So
Okay. Okay.
once we hit that stage, then I'll be having to take off if I'm still working the night shift. So
Okay. And what's going on tonight that you wanted to tell? Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be,
yeah,
late, but
we have the last full moon of the year tonight, which is the winter's moon, or pre-Christmas moon, Yule moon, and it's also called the cold moon. And it's in Gemini, and it is a opportunity to kind of go over the things that have happened throughout the year and release the things that you want to let go and think about the things that you want to carry into the coming year. It's also a little different because of Mars being in retrograde. I think that was what it was.
I know it is visible and it's supposed to be an hour after sunset. You can see it, and then you can see them like crossing. And the one lady says it looks like they're kissing,
Yep,
and
I
then the
saw
moon
that.
will cover it, and then Mars comes out like depending on where you are within a few minutes to an hour later.
Yeah, it has some special term to it and it starts with a C, but I can't remember what that word was.
Yeah, I thought it was like opulent or
Was it?
I don't know.
I suppose if it was Aki something, I would see C as the first letter.
There.
Oh, so yeah, it could be that. But yeah, since that's in retrograde, then it makes for an emotional time. And for those of us who are Geminis, we're a little extra emotional.
Yeah,
Um,
there's like four, and it's Gemini, Sagittarius, and there was a couple more, and I'm like, I deal with all those on a daily basis.
right, that was my thought too.
And ah, yeah, it started last night. I'm just leaving it at that, but it started last night.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a rough morning today. every time I would say something to my son, he would get upset and like do a mini freak out, which makes it for a rough morning. At one point, I was telling him to pick a chapstick to put in his backpack to take with him. So what does he do? He grabs stuffed animals and starts playing with them.
Fair. I mean, it sounds the same.
And so I gave him a minute, and then I had taken the one away, which was still in pieces from Thanksgiving. Attempted to throw it away, didn't work. Someone dug it out of the trash. But yeah.
So put it in your car and throw it away at work.
So it's still in pieces. Wasn't happy about that. But then he tried to say I hurt his arm. Mind you, I didn't touch his arm. All I touched was the head of the guy. And it came apart. I didn't even touch his arm. So yeah. That was that's a good representation of how our morning went.
Yeah, my fun time started at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I give up, going to bed.
That reminds me, midnight here, which would be 1 o'clock there, Wi-Fi stops.
What?
On the dot. Just no Wi-Fi, no internet connection.
Why?
I have no idea.
For how long?
I'm not even 100% how long. I had woke up at 2 and it was back on. I know it was not back on at 12:30.
Oh, it happened last night. I thought you meant, okay, never mind.
Yeah, like I thought I was gonna have to get up this morning and send you a message and be like, hey, we can't record this morning because we don't have internet.
Okay.
But thankfully it was fixed before morning and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, it's just, yeah, fun.
So I have a new pen for I'm going to use that for my true crime stuff.
I like that idea. It works perfectly.
I don't know how well you can see it.
Oh, it shows up pretty good.
I love it. Rachel got it. This is an early Christmas present from Rachel. It's like she can't hold on to my presents, but I get it because I don't like getting gifts early for people because then I want to give them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. So
I still haven't actually gotten anyone a gift yet.
I've got a couple. I need a few more because I'm not. Excuse me, coffee, burpee. Um, I'm not going all out this year.
Yeah, me either.
With not working a lot of Saturdays, and like we've worked every Saturday for like 4 years, maybe longer. So all of a sudden to not be working Saturdays really hits you when it comes to the extra spending. Like Amazon misses me right now. Like Amazon truly misses me.
Yeah, I canceled my Amazon 6 months ago, somewhere in that area. Because for us, like we don't, like I work my normal shift, we don't get overtime, but our tips aren't there. And so because tips aren't there, I can't afford the extra things. Like in the past 2 months, I've gotten rid of my Ipsy, I've gotten rid of Patreon, getting rid of Disney Plus. I got rid of a couple of other little subscriptions, but like in total it was like $10 or $12 for the couple extras. So yeah, I've gotten rid of like 5 additional subscriptions in the past 2 months.
Yeah, I did away with Amazon Music, and that one hurt a little bit because I was on there and realized our podcast is on there,
Oh, yep.
and Garth Brooks is on there. I'm like, I'm on the same platform as Garth Brooks. It was stupid, but whatever.
I remember.
But I canceled it, and there is a couple more that I do plan on canceling. I cannot cancel Awakening in a Box yet. I just can't do it.
I canceled that one 4 or 6 months ago.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
one.
want to, but I couldn't keep doing it.
Yeah.
So
Um.
I'm down to like two left, I think, two subscriptions. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's my Wi-Fi for in the car, which allows my son to be able to use the iPad in the car. And then my Netflix.
I have Netflix. I've got Discovery Plus.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. Actually, I need to cancel that one.
I have Hulu, which I actually got during like quarantine because it had Nashville.
See, and I got rid of my Hulu quite some time ago, in lieu of Discovery Plus, because Discovery Plus had all the shows that I wanted to watch on Hulu, but Hulu didn't have all the episodes or all the seasons of the different shows. And it was only like $1 or something like that more. And I was like, that's okay, I can handle that. Well, I haven't been utilizing it as much. So yeah, just gonna let it go for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah. So,
Mm.
but I was saying I had Hulu, and then I had initially suspended because you can suspend it where they don't
Mhm.
charge you, but you still have it. And then I was talking to my daughter one night. We were talking about a movie, and right now I cannot think of the movie. And she was like, "Yeah, Mike's never seen it." I'm like, "What?"
Now, you know how I feel when you tell me you haven't seen Hocus Pocus. Nope, saying it. I'm saying it. I done said it. I still can't
um,
believe you haven't seen that movie.
I know, and I've got Rachel's copy here, and I keep saying, "I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it," and then I don't. I
Yeah,
just,
Rachel, you need to get on that. Start bugging her every time you see her, every time you talk to her, be like, Hocus Pocus. It's just a bunch of Hocus Pocus.
ma'am.
Keep reminding her. We're gonna get you to watch it because you know what? The second one is out already, so it's past time.
Yeah.
You had 30 years.
My whole thing, the whole Sarah Jessica Parker. I just don't like her. Her face pisses me off. Blah blah blah. Um, yeah. But anyway, what had happened was I said, "Well, it's on Hulu." I thought they had Hulu, and she was like, "What's your login?" I'm like, "I've suspended my Hulu." So I redid it so they could watch the movie. I don't even remember what it was now. It doesn't matter. But they got it. He watched it.
Did you resuspend it?
Not yet. I forgot, to be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. So, um, let's get into this lovely little mess.
Okay, well, what are we gonna call this case?
This is the case of the Ypsilanti Ripper,
Okay,
also known as the co-ed killer before Ed Kemper.
okay,
Um, because Ed Kemper was in the 70s, this was in like he started in 1967, so this is before Ed Kemper.
okay.
It's got a few other names. Let me peek real quick. The co-ed killer, the Michigan murder, the Ypsilanti killer, and the Ypsilanti Ripper. And I think the last one is the one that stuck.
Okay.
Um, so I'm gonna start this out with major trigger warnings. I'm gonna start this out with if you're able to pour yourself an adult beverage, do so now. Pause. Pour that shit because you're gonna need it. Like this one's bad. Like I said, one trigger warning. It's brutal. It's bad. So, but
I just
this,
want to make a note that during your research of it, you did take pauses in your research and polo me,
Mm-hmm.
um, and told me how it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But that you had to take a break
Yeah.
because it was that bad.
Yeah. And
So
normally I'm fine. Normally I just take a break because like well, I was gonna type everything on the computer, but I realized in order to do the side by side screen, I gotta record on the computer. Um, so yeah.
yeah.
So all my notes are handwritten
Oh,
and I've got several pages, and this is just for part one. Yeah, I don't know if you can see me flipping, but there's a lot. Um, and some stuff like I'm not like I've got some notes on here like okay, look at so there's a couple books. I forgot the names of them. I will link them in the notes or something. And then a lot of my information about the victims I did get off Wikipedia because when you're listening to an audiobook, you don't get to see the words
mm,
unless it's a Kindle thing. And okay, so again, very brutal. If you don't, and this recommendation came from Dan.
okay.
Um, yeah, it's a rough one. So bear with me because again, handwritten notes and it is rough. So we're gonna start with Mary Teresa Flazar was a 19-year-old. I think she was a Eastern Michigan University student, which I will refer to EMU in subsequent thingies, was last seen by a neighbor on July 9th, 1967, walking to her apartment. The neighbor had also saw a young man in a blue-gray Chevrolet. The car slowed to a halt beside Mary. Um, this this happened twice. She was seen like shaking her head and walking away, and the car kept coming up. Now we're going to fast forward to on August 7th. So almost a full month later, her nude body was found by two 15-year-old boys in an abandoned farm in Superior Township. And she was identified by dental records the next day. The last warning to turn around and run. This is where it starts getting bad. Her body was badly decomposed. Although the pathologist who examined Mary's remains determined she had been stabbed approximately 30 times in the chest and abdomen with a knife or a sharp object. Her feet had been severed just above the ankle. The thumbs and sections of fingers of one hand were missing, and the other forearm had been severed. The severed parts were never found. They were never found. Despite the advanced state of decomp, the pathologist also located multiple lineal abrasions on the chest and torso, indicating that she had been beaten extensively. Police theorize, again, this is my handwriting, so bear with me a little bit. Police theorized that she had been raped but could not confirm. Upon examination of the crime scene, revealed the body had been moved 3 times while she was considered missing. 2 days after Mary's body had been identified, a young man claiming to be, this is so sick, claiming to be a friend of the Flazar family and I hope I'm saying that right. There was actually another source that gave a completely different name, but this is the one I'm going with. Um, so this young man claiming to be a friend of the family went to the funeral home prior to her burial and asked them if he could take a picture of her body as a keepsake. He was told it was impossible. And he responded with, and this is a quote, "You mean you can't fix her up enough so I could get one picture of her? Get out." Just, uh, so after being told no a second time, um, he was told no a second time. Um, and this was how the person he interacted with described everything. The man was handsome, young, white male with dark hair, and he was driving a blue-gray Chevrolet, and he had not been carrying a camera. Now remember, this is 1967. There was no camera phones. Um, so
And
yeah,
please tell me that whoever dealt with this person found it suspicious and turned the person in.
well, that's how they got their information. But
Okay.
that's what they had to go by, was just the description: young, handsome, white, dark hair, no camera. Yeah,
Gosh, just would carry a camera and you'll thwart the police.
right. Well, to me, if you're going to
Oh,
go and ask to take a picture of somebody, you're going to have camera ready, just
right.
just in case they go, yeah, come on back, sicko. All right.
Oh, wow.
Now we have um Joan Elspeth. Maybe it's supposed to be Elizabeth, but it's spelled Elspeth. Shell uh was a 21, excuse me, a 20-year-old art student. She was found July 5th, 1968. So that's almost a full year
Wow.
after poor Mary. Um Partially decomposed and mutilated body was found by construction workers in an Ann Arbor on an Ann Arbor roadside. She had been raped, then stabbed 25 times with a knife, thought to be about 4 inches long. She had punctured lungs, liver, and carotid artery. With one additional wound inflicted behind her left ear, fracturing her skull.
Mm.
Um, and there was something to do with, there was something stuck down Mary's throat, I believe, maybe. Um, yeah, because I think all of the victims had something shoved down their throat, like they're assuming muffle the screams. So her Mary's throat had been slashed and her mini skirt had been tied around her neck.
Hmm.
Um, although Joan had been dead for several days, her entire lower body seemed to be well preserved. Whereas her head, shoulders, and breast were in an advanced state of decomposition. This led the pathologist to conclude her body had been stored in a naturally cool environment, but the upper third of her body had been exposed to natural heat.
Okay.
And
That's kind of odd.
it's believed that um, her body was at its final location for less than 24 hours.
Wow.
So her murderer had likely driven her to the location to dispose of the body. I don't think at this point they know where. And it was the killer made rudimentary efforts to conceal the body with clumps of grass. And there was outstanding similarities between Mary and Joan.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of had like 4 detectives to assigned to work on these cases full time. And Wikipedia does surprisingly give very good accounts of each victim, a little bit about them, stuff for their roommates. I'm not going to go into all that because I don't want to do another 8-part thing. There was a reward for the information leading to the conviction of the perpetrator of these crimes. And at that time, it was $7,800.
Wow.
Yeah. And even up to like 2 months after Joan's murder, like they were still talking to witnesses. So it's not like these women were just found dead and forgotten. So yeah, it does. And I am going to find pictures of the victims to post. So next we have Jane Louise Mixer. She was a 23-year-old University of Michigan law student. She disappeared after posting on like a college bulletin board.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was common for people to post on this bulletin board, like looking for rides, looking for roommates. Like, hey, I'm going here. You want to put in some gas money and you go with me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going from Ann Arbor to Muskegon, where she was from. And she was going to inform her family that she was engaged and planning on moving to New York because her fiance was a teacher and he had got offered a job in New York. And the one book I was listening to had a very nice, like, gives the teacher's background, and the family was against the relationship, so that's why she went home to tell them.
Probably because he was a teacher.
Yeah. So she was found fully clothed, covered by her raincoat, with a copy of the novel Catch-22, which was actually her fiance's copy. Like, it was his book. Her body was laying on top of a grave in Denton Cemetery in Van Buren Township. Her autopsy revealed that she had been shot twice in the head with a .22 caliber pistol. And then garroted. Nope. Garrot.
Corroded.
No.
Huh?
No. a garrote where they have like where you're choked, but there's something in it
okay.
to like twist it. You know,
Gotcha.
same what they did with John Benet Ramsey. Yeah, I think it's garroted. With a nylon stocking, which was not hers. Pathologist also states that Jane was not sexually assaulted and that she had died approximately 3 a.m. on March 21st and had not been killed where she was found. So she was, yeah, she was not.
So this one went against the MO of the other two that were found.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it'll be interesting to learn how they connect the three, or rather that one to the other two.
We get there, I think. I think we get there.
Okay.
Okay, the previous three were pretty yucky. This is the one where I had to take the break.
Okay.
So I'm just letting you know this one's bad. Okay. And in the audiobook I was reading, which again I don't remember the name of, there is like a lot of information about this particular victim and the family, and the fact that this was overlooked as part of this killer's victim because of kind of the crazy family.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't even want to say crazy family. There was a lot of substances, we'll say,
Okay.
including the victim herself. So at this point, this is the youngest at 16 years old.
Oh,
Yeah. And she was found, okay, the body was found 4 days after the discovery of Jane, the last one.
oh, okay.
So a surveyor discovered the nude, mutilated body behind a vacant house on Earhart Street or Earhart Road. This was only a few hundred yards from where the body of Joan Shell, which was the second victim, was found 8 months prior. Sorry. Noted dramatic increase in the brutality against the victim, with one investigator describing the injuries inflicted on this victim as the worst he had seen in 30 years of police work.
Wow.
Yeah. The victim died of numerous fractures covering 1/3 of her skull and one side of her face, which was caused by a heavy blunt instrument. Injuries had been inflicted after the victim had been extensively beaten and tortured. A section of her own shirt had been placed in her trachea to muffle the screams as she was being beaten in the head, face, and body. Sorry, my writing sucks. Including deep lacerations that could have been caused by a leather strap. Restraints were also believed to have been used because of a welt mark that was on the body. It is believed she was restrained in a prone position as he whipped her torso and upper legs with a leather strap or belt. Now, do you see why I had to take a break? And
Yep.
and we're not even close. A branch from a nearby tree had been broken from the tree, inserting this branch 8 inches inside of her. Yeah. Like I said, this case is really brutal. Thanks, Dan. Blood spattering and churn soil close to the crime scene indicated that she had been beaten close to where her body was discovered. It is possible she had attempted to escape her attacker. And by this point, she is identified as 16-year-old Marilyn Skelton. She was a high school student. And again, she was found on March 25th. Marilyn was from Romulus. She had disappeared while hitchhiking in Ann Arbor. Her family was getting ready to move from Romulus to Flint, and she didn't want to move. She was last seen alive 2 days before her body was found. Autopsy reveals she died 24 to 36 hours before she was found. Strong similarities between this murder and the previous killings attributed to the Michigan murderer. At this point, this is what he's known as. Also briefly called the co-ed killer, not to be confused with Ed Kemper. So I know I said that earlier, but I did put it in my notes. A garter belt was tied around her neck, and her clothes were placed neatly beside her body. At this point, a task force was formed. And I'm going to go into the investigation and the task force stuff next week. And this one was another break. Just so you know, this was another break when you got poloed. 13-year-old Dawn Louise Bassam was found beside a desolate road in Ypsilanti on April 16th at 6:30 a.m. Clothed in only a white blouse and bra, which was pushed up around her neck. She had been repeatedly stabbed in the chest and genitals. There was also multiple slash wounds across her breast, buttocks, and stomach. She was strangled to death with a 2-foot electrical flex. I'm guessing maybe extension cord.
That would be my guess.
I don't know. It was still on her neck. A handkerchief had been stuffed in her mouth, most likely to muffle her cries during her torture. Her killer placed her body where she would be found quickly. And again, there's more, like I just put like more info on Wiki, but there's some of these I don't really want to reread again because they're very rough. Like even just the parts that I wrote was rough, but there's a couple books. There is a podcast that I listen to. I will put all of them on the page in the show notes, all that stuff. So next we have 21-year-old University of Michigan graduate student Alice Elizabeth Cadam. She had been found less than 2 months after Dawn's body was found. She was found by 3 teenage boys. Now, this is the second victim that's been found by teenage boys. Could you imagine those teenage boys?
Oh, scarred for life.
And what they had? That'd be horrible because these bodies were not found in wonderful condition. Like,
right.
That's got to be something. I mean, in 1967, teenagers, they're probably still alive now.
Yeah. And not only that, but I would imagine that, being that age and happening across something like that, like they would see it, but their brain wouldn't register what they were seeing. So it would be something that they would actually have to get closer to and look at for a period of time before their brain actually registered what it was.
Right. Well, even the woman that found the Black Dahlia thought it was a mannequin.
Yep.
So that's another case I really, really love and debating because there's so much out there on that.
There is.
Like the shepherd and that case are the two cases that just sucked me right into this whole true crime thing.
But for me, it was the Dahlia case.
Like that case. Now I never watched the movie that came out with. I never watched that because I don't know. I just didn't. The reviews are bad, and I normally don't go by reviews, but the reviews were really really bad. So I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna bother. Roy, however, watched it and said it wasn't great. So if Roy says a movie sucks, and Roy will watch literally anything with credits at the beginning and the end, it sucks. Okay, so again, these poor teenage boys. They discovered her partially nude body in a field close to an abandoned farmhouse on North Territorial Road. The victim had received multiple slash and stab wounds to the body, including two stab wounds that had pierced the heart, and a gunshot wound to the forehead. The victim's right thumb had also received a gunshot wound, suggesting like she instinctively
Defensive.
Raised her hand to protect herself before the killer fired at her at point blank range to her forehead. She had also been raped, and her clothes were scattered around, which they're finding some scattered, some neatly folded. I don't know. The guy's a little. It could not be determined if she had been raped before or after death. Also, one of her shoes was missing.
Of all the things, a shoe.
Yeah. Alice had been identified the next day. She had disappeared shortly after midnight on June 8th. She was last seen walking towards, excuse me, I'm kind of stuffed up. I don't know if you can tell. And I'm trying not to do that gross.
I appreciate your not doing that.
So like every once in a while I gotta breathe. She was last seen walking towards her apartment on Thompson Street after being at a friend's party. Her raincoat was found at a commercial gravel pit, and it had severe dried blood stains on it and two buttons. It was missing two buttons. So it was determined that she was murdered at the gravel pit and then moved. So at this point, like young women in the area start using the buddy system. They're either with a trusted male, which I'm sure at that point is really hard to trust, because this is what at this point 5, 6, yeah, a lot. So they were either with like a trusted male, or they were like with 3 or more other females. They also started carrying weapons such as knives. It had been suggested that the killer was a fellow student. During this time, sales of tear gas, knives, and like security locks, I'm assuming deadbolts. That's what I call them, they're deadbolts. Sales of that shit just went up.
Oh, I imagine.
There was a reward offered for information leading to the arrest and conviction of $42,000. In today's money, that would be $321,750 today. More than 1,000 convicted sex offenders were investigated and eliminated as suspects. Over 800 tips from informants had been actively investigated, and several thousand individuals were routinely interviewed.
Wow.
At a press conference, Sheriff Douglas Harvey conceded that the investigation had little physical evidence, and basically the killer just hadn't fucked up enough yet. So,
Wow.
and this I think I thought it was kind of, I'd heard a lot about this case, but I didn't remember this particular info, but it was in the podcast and the audiobook. Um, but Ann Arbor's citizens requested to have a Dutch psychic named Peter Herkos come and read the situation. So initially, he, I don't remember what the dollar thing was, but he wanted like a heavy ass fee. I mean, he's traveling from, well, he was Dutch, so I'm guessing Holland. um, to travel to Michigan. I mean, that I don't fly, so I don't know what airfare costs. I don't know what it cost
Not
back then.
cheap.
Yeah, I don't know what it cost back then. I don't fly. I wasn't born with wings, therefore I have no reason to be in the air.
Uh,
So anyway, Peter Herkos travels to Washita County on July 21st. Happy birthday, Bentley. That's my grandson's birthday. To generate a psychic profile of the murderer.
okay, hold on. Knowing what we know about psychics, can you imagine being that psychic and having to go and like view those things in your mind? I
No.
can understand why he would ask an exorbitant fee, not only for, transportation, but I mean that's mental trauma,
Oh yeah,
because
and
in most cases he would be experiencing it firsthand.
right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you will see that the stuff that he does accurately.
Verbalize.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
um wasn't details that were given to the press. So he literally would have no way of knowing. So let's Herkos accurately predicted the killer was a strongly built white male under 25 years old who had been born outside of the US. Just remember all this stuff, please. The lead, oh, sorry, bad handwriting. Maybe this new pen will make my handwriting better.
Sure.
Uh, I mean, I have decent handwriting, but like once you're writing and making all these notes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you need.
Yeah, once you hit like a page and a half, writing ability just kind of starts dropping with every couple of lines.
Yeah, and then what happens with me is I'll just write whatever, and then realize I spelled that wrong. But I'll know what it is when I read my notes.
Yeah, sure.
All
I
right
do the
then.
same thing.
Yeah. So he was born outside of the US and who rode a motorcycle. He led investigators to the exact location where each victim's body had been found, or had been found. Herkos also revealed details of the murders which had not been released to the press. Although none of this was actually any real help, this is all stuff they already knew. Well,
Mhm.
except for the description. And the only
Right.
description they really have at this time is from the funeral home with the first victim.
Gotcha.
Um, the psychic also words, fuck them. He did predict the killer would strike shortly after, one final time. Now, there is, and I will get into that during the investigation portion, but there is also a victim in California that I will get to. Um, so, final victim here. 18-year-old EMU student Karen Sue Beinman was last seen alive on July 23rd, 1969. Sherry Green, her roommate, reported her missing when she missed her dorm's curfew because there's a killer on the loose. So they've got safety precautions in place.
Mhm.
Both of her roommates were questioned and informed police that Karen had been last seen around noon and she was on her way downtown to a wig shop. And then it does get interesting because in the book, it does talk about how, and again, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of maybe during the investigation what some of the witnesses say, but the wig shop owner remembers a lot.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
3 days after her disappearance, her nude body was discovered face down in a wooded gully alongside her Huron. I live here and I was gonna say Huron. Huron River. Fuck me running.
Even I know that one. It's okay.
I in my defense, I have not drank this whole thing yet.
Fair.
So 3 days after her disappearance, her nude body was discovered face down. And I read this in a wooded gully alongside Huron River Parkway. A medical exam showed Karen had been extensively beaten about the face and body, with some lacerations being so severe, sections of the skin had been removed, exposing tissue. She received extensive skull and brain injuries, which had been caused by a blunt instrument. She had been forced to ingest a caustic substance, which I had to look up, and that's either acidic or alkaline. Her neck, shoulders, nipples, and breasts had been burned with the same substance. As with the previous victims, her killer placed the cloth in her throat to muffle her screams. She had been raped prior to death. Her panties were in her throat and had the presence of human semen and 509 human hair clippings. I had to read that a couple times because I was like, am I not reading this right? Like,
That's really weird.
yeah, it just, yeah, the hair
Like it was just
clippings,
all wadded up in there.
I don't know. The hair clippings were predominantly blonde, therefore they did not belong to the victim. So my guess is, sorry. Hang on. There was one little tidbit that I wanted to read after. Nope. Son of a bitch. I'm sorry. I'm so because there was some things that happened um afterwards or that came out maybe during trial, but every victim had been menstruating at the time of her murder.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna get into this garbage piece of shit. John Norman Collins was born June 17th, 1947. This motherfucker is 75 years old because he's still alive.
Yeah.
In
Let's
Windsor,
hope he wouldn't be.
yeah, in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. So born outside the US.
Oh, I thought you were saying that's where he is now.
No, that's where he was born.
Okay.
I believe he's in Jackson.
Mm.
Um, He had an older brother and sister. His father abandoned the family shortly after John was born. His father was allegedly, because there's not a lot of information,
Mhm.
um, he was allegedly an abusive alcoholic. Um, John's mother, and I'm not given their names. John's mother, I will, I don't, yeah. Anyway, she remarried a second time. This man was also abusive and an alcoholic. This guy sounds like a real piece of work. His stepfather threw John across the family vehicle in a fit of rage when he was really pissed off at his wife. John was 2. On another occasion, the stepfather provoked another man into an argument. When the man got pissed off enough, pulled a gun, he picked up 4-year-old John and used him as a shield. In 1951, John's mother left this piece of shit and then moved her family. By this time she has 3 children, because he has his older brother, sister, and him. Moves the kids to Detroit. Thank you. She then married William Collins, who adopted the 3 kids. William was also an alcoholic and frequently abusive. I think the mom has a type.
A little bit. Thanks for that trauma, Mom.
Yeah. And by 1956, John's mother divorced this man. Despite his shitty upbringing, John was an honor student, captain of his football team, star pitcher of his high school basketball team, an all-around popular and successful student. In 1965, John began studying education at Eastern Michigan University, and that is where I'm leaving you this week.
Wow. So basically, he excelled at academics to be able to get away.
Yeah. By all accounts, he was very smart. And in the one, when you listen to audiobooks and podcasts, sometimes it's hard to separate which is which. But in one of them, it does talk about how that first victim, he had, removed the ankle, removed fingers, removed a whole forearm. He kind of realized that was a mistake that he did not repeat with subsequent victims.
Yep, took too much time.
And I am going to piss you guys all off.
Oh, why?
Because that's what, 7 plus
I
the
think
one
so.
plus the one in California. He was convicted of 1. He was only convicted of 1 murder, and I believe it was the last one.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was the last one, because the last one, what I didn't mention in this part was his uncle is a police officer. In no way, shape, or form was this man on his side. So I'm going to throw that out there. Like, this was not like, oh, we got to hide his shit. He was telling people he was getting this inside information from the uncle, and he was not getting the information from the uncle. He knew because he did it. Yeah, so next week I'm going to clean this up nice and neat with investigation and info like that, and the location in which he kills his last victim is basically what gets him caught.
Good.
And there's no way to deny what he did. Um, he is a garbage person.
Yep.
I hope he's having a miserable time in prison. Um,
Same.
like all of those, all of the victims, like reading and writing down that stuff was very rough, but the 13 and 16-year-old really, really was rough. And that's when I had to take breaks and be like, no, it's brutal. It's very brutal. Um, and it was hard to read that stuff. Like, because I kept picturing, like, not that way, but like, I have a daughter and I have a granddaughter. And oh, yeah, anything like
Yep.
that would just, knowing that someone I love suffered that way would just be, it would end me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not gonna lie. I would be broken.
It would end me.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, and you don't have to give specifics, but do we find out why? Like why he did these horrific things?
Um, Maybe.
Okay.
I know that there is some stuff about it. Um, but because of, I don't want to say it's the abuse, because a lot of people grow up in abusive homes and don't become serial killers. Um, but it was something about women, and kind of like the typical serial killer, the mother got them to believe that they were horrible. But on that
Hmm.
note, I've got to start getting ready for work. So I'm going to jump off, and thank you guys. We will finish this up next week. Um, just I'm really sorry about all the ick you had to listen to. That does get, it won't be bad next week. Some of it might have to be brought up to tie shit together, but I am very sorry that you had to listen, and I did warn you. Um, so if you stuck around, thank you. Uh,
I did.
but
And
you don't
though
have
it
a
was bad,
choice.
yeah, I could have walked off and went and did some other things as I was listening,
Yeah,
but I didn't.
yeah, it
Um,
was. But yeah,
but that being said, knowing, the things that were done, it does help to, paint the picture and things like that. And
yeah,
so I'm glad that you decided to highlight them at the beginning of the episode and the case. And I look forward to hearing the rest of it next week because I don't get to hear these stories beforehand. I don't
yes,
know the case myself. So I'm hearing it the first time, same as you.
yeah. And like I said, one more part. I promise to never do that to you guys again with like the 1,000 parts. It's kind of, it's a running joke with me and Jenny. It's also a running joke with me and Rachel. Um, and Tammy has brought it up. So I won't do that again. Um, yeah, it was rough. So I hope you guys, and I know I'll see you later.
Yep.
Um, but we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for joining, and hope you have a good week.
Bye.
Bye. I gotta stop this shit. Oh yeah, forgot. Huh.
Got to trim the end.
Yeah, I forgot the